incorporated in the philosophical knowledge of the position of the Earth, while physics is moving ahead at a great speed. Keyboard is connected, learning all kinds of things. They didn't have perfect knowledge.
Seems to be the record of a process in time. All these forms, whether you see it in the galaxies or the shells or the rotation of subatomic particles or the great rotations of the groups of galaxies or anything in between, it seems that it's like a record of the natural processes just caught in a moment of time, and each object has its own time.
Science tends to be progressively we know, in fact, everybody knows that life is chaotic. You are all experts on chaos. That's what life is all about.
Making a treaty, the tokens that each presents to the others.
We know, in fact, everybody knows everything you learn is chaotic.
Thrown together tokens from two sides that they contribute to the treaty, that they contribute to the feast,
that is incorporated in the freshman and sophomore course.
There's a kind of paradox of
physics is moving ahead at great
it at the
speed.
one time, on the one hand, represents two distinct separate sides, separate incorporated, and at the same time,
an ancestral hall, a dynastic monument. It's a tomb for a very important Maya ruler. So it's a place where these rulers were worshipped, and we know that sometime in the early centuries again, 200, 300 AD, the art changes from images of the faces of the gods
linked to the invisible, a material token to link us to the invisible reality. So one thinks, for example, of the material church as an analog and as a token.
After more than 2,000 years in Western thought, the universe being thought of as essentially eternal, or at least if created by God in the beginning, then going on indefinitely thereafter. We now have the idea of the universe as an evolutionary system, starting with the Big Bang, and the idea that it's been growing and evolving ever since. So if we think of the universe as an organism, and the idea of the Big Bang is very like those ancient myths of the cracking of the cosmic egg. If we think of the universe as an organism developing from the original creative event, growing just like organisms grow, as trees and animals and plants grow, as their embryos, and then they get bigger and they form structures within them.
Coming all from a common geographic and linguistic
and literary and cultural arena that of the Near East, we might have
mapping the universe is part of the history of our trying to find out who we are and where we live. It's part of the history of mapping the Earth, and our horizons have expanded. So now our horizons are a lot bigger than the Earth. They reach to billions of light years from us. So the challenge, one of the challenges that we face today is to understand how galaxies like our own Milky Way are arranged on very large scales in the universe. Are there any patterns, or are they randomly distributed? What are these patterns? For a long time, people thought that there were some patterns.
is sending radio signals in the same direction as we get these erratic modes, and that creates electromagnetic radiation. Difficulty for how to address a God supreme other than what we are. Islam, of course, joins Judaism in sharing that ongoing circular as being invisible. Christianity solves the problem
so that it was a little bit
of
aside, so that most of the behavior.
Okay, so these are some pictures which I think have their own merit, and you try to say that's an intriguing picture. And what is it about these pictures that there's a certain unity and a certain disunity which combine together to produce interesting pictures?
in ways that are obvious.
Behold, we've colored this point blue, which means that if we start here, the pendulum is going to lock into the blue behavior.
Or at least if created by God in the beginning, then going on indefinitely thereafter. We now have the idea of the universe as an evolutionary system, starting with the Big Bang.
This is a picture of what we call a strange
and the idea that it's been growing, evolving, and
next slide.
So if we think of the universe as an organism, and the idea of the Big Bang is very likely as
And so one thinks easily then of myth and prayer as the verbal elements which build our relationship to the Sakya. But what we also recognize is that throughout the course of human history and geography, art has played an analogous kind of role. Art is, through human history and geography, largely the visual counterpart to myth. It is a handmaiden of religion. It enables us, it assists us in visualizing the Sakya and in visualizing the relationship between the Sakya and the profanus. It shouldn't surprise us then that within art there are numerous symbols which, from community to community, overlap, sometimes echo each other.
Actually comes from a model that if we start here,
what I'm suggesting is a fundamental asymmetry
where it can either match on or off, but
the past has an influence on humanity, which is different from the future. There's a real polarity in time.
Next slide. If I
That's
start
part of the
over
theory
here,
that the idea of morphic resonance is
red
similar
behavior. So if I
things
start up one way,
can
and as you
influence
walk
subsequent
closer and closer, you
behaviors.
see
And
more
the
and more
influence
is
of
metaphysics of sound.
metaphor
I'm a
resonance.
Tibetan Lama and have been for 10 years or so now. And I discovered then they have a highly sophisticated understanding of the mind. There is no other tradition that still has intact a precise understanding of the way the mind works, that if you do this, then that happens, if you do that, then this happens, or that, and not that. They know almost every word in the Tibetan language has some qualification of mind. And they understand the importance of the voice. And in fact, they divide the human being into three: body,
combined together
There's no need for a memory in a world in which past,
which will
present,
show
and
you the
future
same
take
picture,
place.
but we're going to zoom in.
I think this idea that the Akashic records are physically stored as records in their way is an
So it's a
unfortunate
map. But these are natural
metaphor.
scientific
But certainly the
pictures
idea of a kind
made
of
by
cosmic
photographic
memory
behavioral
is
computer
similar to
screens.
what I'm
Got it?
saying. That
Probably not
our way of
too
thinking about time
Now, if I start
spatial
over
metaphors
here,
may be inappropriate.
it's going to lock into
Both
the
in
red
science
button.
and
So
in
if I start
language
one way, fill the
tend to
entire
think of time
screen.
as if it's a
31,000
spatial
points will
dimension,
fill the entire
distant
screen.
past.
You just see this
And if we think of it that way, then
seemingly
yes,
regular
there
motion.
is there. We think of it as a kind of linear sequence.
The color patterns indicate how many of the 31,000 points are packed into any particular spot. Blue means relatively low density. The bright regions mean there are lots of points packed in. So you've got 31,000 points wandering freely around the screen, but collectively having this
Of course, you're similar to all other human beings.
every time we fold,
You and I both, to some extent, tune into and collectively large numbers of
on the TV,
So our own
you have
members
an
would be
infinite number of
accessed
which
by
will
more
show you the same
resolution
picture
of our own against
zoom in.
large
Thing
background
moves periodically,
of
but
memories
what's
from many other
represented here. Now I just
people's
showed
past,
number of
which
layers,
is
and
the
one
idea
will
of
zoom in,
the
and the
collective
other one.
consciousness.
This is exactly what it seems to be. It seems to be a record of a process in time.
The form structures within them.
The
The universe on the present model looks much more like a developing organism than it does like an eternal machine, which was the primary metaphor of the mechanistic worldview. An inherent memory in the whole of nature. Memory is inherent in everything, and as the universe grows and develops, these memories, through repetition, become increasingly